Hey everybody, TheGoodin24 here. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I would like to talk about the new World of Outlaws update and the whole game in general. I've been thinking about it a lot since I've played the update, and I have a few things I'd like to say. This is obviously going to be more of a personal, face-to-face podcast type thing. There's not going to be any gameplay in the background to prove my point, so if you're not a fan of that, I'm sorry. I know it probably seems lazy. I could do that, but this just seems the easiest, if we're being honest. I have plenty of gameplay on my channel if you would like to see it. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about World of Outlaws Dirt Racing 2023, I suppose. So I believe, we're going to get right into it. I believe that this is the best dirt racing game ever. And I don't mean like dirt or dirt rally. I mean like oval, American dirt oval racing. I know World of Outlaws 2002 is the GOAT. I know that's what everyone says, and I love that game too. Don't get me wrong, it's been the standard forever. And that game has some things that this game doesn't have. I'm not going to dispute that. This game has some problems. But I think this game, overall, is great. And I think, as of right now, it's the best. Let's just jump right into it. You have a bunch of different series. You have the World of Outlaws sprint cars and late models. You have, and I apologize if I get some of these wrong, I'm more of a casual dirt racing fan. I love to go to the dirt races on Friday and Saturday nights. I'm not a big World of Outlaws person, especially sprint cars. I prefer late models. But they have the 360 sprint cars, the pro late models. I mean, they have the regular late models too. 305 sprints. They have the modifieds. I don't remember what kind. Street stocks, and now they have the midgets. They just added the Chili Bowl, and they have tons and tons and tons of real-world tracks. And that's awesome. I know World of Outlaws 2002 did too, and that's great, especially for back in the day. iRacing bought Monster Games, who developed this. They also developed the Tony Stewart games, the NASCAR Heat games before that, the SRX game, and those are all great games, and there's a lot of that in this game. But with iRacing's help, they've added in a lot of things, and a lot of these tracks are now scanned. They're 1-to-1. They're right, and they look exactly how they should. And that's a big deal. And that's a really big deal. There are a lot of licensed tracks in this game. I wish there were more. Obviously, they could do that. I was a little disappointed in the updates that they only added like 1 or 2 tracks, especially this one. I know they added the midgets, and they added 2 other tracks aside from the Chili Bowl. I wish there was more. I feel like for $30, I wish there was more, but I don't know how much the Ultimate Edition costs. Let's look it up right now, actually. It is $49.99, $50 for the 2023 update and the World of Outlaws game. I spent $30 alone on the update, and now I got the game for free from Monster Games. Thank you to them. That in no way influenced my decision. They didn't give me the update for free, and that's fine. I was more than happy to spend my hard-earned money on it. But $50 for this whole package is a hell of a deal, and I really recommend you do that if you haven't already. But I wish with the updates they would have added more tracks. I mean, there's a lot, and there's a lot of fantasy tracks. They brought in almost all the fantasy tracks from the Tony Stewart and the SRX games, and that's awesome, and that's good. I mean, the more the better. Even if they're fake, a lot of them are really, really good. And the series, the different series, there are a lot of real-world drivers. There are more so than most of the dirt racing games that have come out in the past. I don't know for sure if it's more than World of Outlaws Sprint Cars 2002, but it is the most in probably 20 years at least, if it's not more than that. In the update, they're almost all, if not all, real-world drivers. A lot of people commented on that in my impressions video. And that's the most important thing. Now in street stocks and some of the lower series, I get that you're not going to have a lot of real world drivers, if any. That's fine, I get that. But in the top tier sprint cars and late models, you got to fill them with real drivers. If you're going to brand this as a World of Outlaws game, you've got to have them. And they do, and that's good. And there's a lot of different drivers from the top to the bottom. Even guys that are not as good or well known are in there, and that's fantastic. And I appreciate they did that, but they had to do it if they wanted to do it right. All of the cars handled differently, as they should. The sprint cars are on edge. I feel like I'm going to wreck them the whole time. I'm not very good at the sprint cars. I won't dispute that. I'm just flat out not good at them. I have trouble using the cockpit cam. I don't only use the cockpit cam, especially when I use a wheel. But I have trouble knowing where other people are. And the game, it's not the game's responsibility to tell me where the other cars are. There's a mirror, but like I still struggle with who's directly to my outside or inside. And I have to get better at that. But for me, as a casual fan, it's great. It's fantastic. I'm bad at it, but I know that it's good. The late models are more my speed. I have a good time with those. They're really planted in the ground. They get super sideways, and I just feel really comfortable with them. Street stocks are fun. I wish they were a little bit more meaty, like on iRacing, but they're fine. The modifieds, I think, were fine. The lower tier late models and stuff were fine. The midgets are super fun, especially at the Chili Bowl. I did a whole 60-lap race with them. And honestly, it's the most fun I've had on a racing game in a long time. Like, aside from iRacing, if we're talking about a console game against AI people, computer opponents, most fun I've had in a long time when it comes to racing games. And it's great. It's fantastic. It's about all I could ask for. The AI does struggle at some tracks. I'm not going to dispute that. But it's overall a great time racing against the computer. The graphics look fine. The dirt builds up over time on your car. Just basic stuff. It's on the Unity engine, so the graphics aren't AAA material, but they do the job. On the PS5, it looks great. It looks fantastic. It runs silky smooth. When it first came out, it was a little bit of stuttering that I noticed, but I think now it looks really, really good. On this game, I kind of talked about how fun it was to drive. I like to use a wheel and pedals over a controller or a pad. You can race them just fine. There's no problem. There's assist. There's lots of things you can tinker even with a wheel or a controller to make it fit your style. For me, where it's at, this game is best played with a wheel and pedals. I know it's a little bit more expensive, and I have a nicer set of pedals and a not a super expensive wheel, but it has enough force feedback. It's not one of those ones with just a rubber band on the inside. And that's the best way to play this game. I struggle on a controller. It feels a little too twitchy to me. I know I can adjust that. I just don't feel like I can be as precise. And it's just more fun that way. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but I think if you have the opportunity to go out and get a wheel, it's best played like that. It doesn't drive exactly like iRacing, but it's pretty darn close. The tracks themselves, they don't change over time, and that is one of the biggest complaints of this game. The other one was tear-offs. They added that in with this new update. You get a certain amount of tear-offs per race or practice or qualifying, and it builds up on the screen, and you can do a tear off and it comes off. There's a nice little animation. I think it works fine. Some people complained about the button placement, how it's a little too cumbersome. For me personally, I thought it was great, because if you're going to rip a tear off in a race, it's not going to be easy. You got to pull your hand across your face and put your hand back on the wheel. No complaints for me. I got used to it. It was fine. But the biggest complaint that people had was the tracks do not change over the course of a race. You're not going to build rubber up over a 50-lap race. It's going to stay the same. It's going to change, from practice to qualifying to the heats to the mains. But in race, it doesn't matter. The line is going to be the same. You're not going to build rubber up. The bottom isn't going to come in. You're not going to build ruts like in iRacing or obviously in real life. That they need to fix that. I don't know if that's an engine problem or something that they couldn't get it implemented just yet. If they make another one of these games, I really think that that's something that they need to work on. I know it's not perfect in iRacing, but it's something. I do feel like, though, even without that, there are multiple different lines that work. Personally, I like running the top everywhere. Obviously, some of these tracks, the corners are too wide for you to make time on the outside. Even if you have a huge amount of speed mid-corner and off the corner, there's just too much time, and obviously that's realistic. So, it just depends from track to track. For me, I feel like the bottom's a little underpowered. I have a problem hitting the bottom some places, and I know that's all user error. I don't feel like I can get it as good. I can't hit my line perfectly. And the middle sometimes just doesn't feel like it works at all. But again, this is just me. I have made all of the lines work at different points over the course of my career mode and my hours playing this game, so I feel like they did a good job. Obviously, there's things that could be tweaked and fixed to make the experience better when you're on track, but personally, I think it's good. The cushion feels good when you're running the top. I can feel it on the wheel with my right rear, getting it on there and powering off the corner and keeping up speed. It feels good, and I like it. The career mode is fine. It's not bad. It's just I've played the Tony Stewart games, the SRX game, and NASCAR Heat. It's kind of a carbon copy. They added different levels like regional, local, regional, national to build up. But my biggest complaint is it kind of feels the same, and you can do multiple seasons in one car before you finish a season in another car. Like I could do 5 seasons in a row of street stocks while I'm in the middle of my season on my modified. And that just doesn't make any sense. I understand they're leaving it open for you, and it's a lot easier to make money that way, but it doesn't feel realistic. It just kind of feels lazy, in my opinion. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. I just don't get it. The local, national, and local, regional, national thing kind of feels a little confusing to me, especially because of that. You can purchase a different car. You can purchase a car on each, obviously, and they're really expensive. It's for me, it's hard to build up enough money to get your car fully maxed out, and while that's a good thing, sometimes it does feel overwhelming. Obviously, I'd rather it be too hard than too easy, but it just felt like I could never get my car fully upgraded, even just simulating some of the lower series to build up money. Obviously, I didn't have the difficulty maxed out for that reason, but some people do that, and it's just going to take a long time. I put hours and hours into this game, and I still feel like I was way behind when it came to even being in the sprint cars in the World of Outlaws series. There's a lot of upgrading left for me to do. It's really all the same. It's kind of a copy from those other Tony Stewart SRX games with hiring your managers and your sponsor managers, and you're just hiring basic people to do that, and you have your basic stock photos. Well, it's not terrible or bad. It's just I've seen it game after game after game, and I just kind of wish they would find something else. They have some of the drivers record videos, and those are fine. They're corny as hell, but you know it makes it feel like a little bit more real world, real life type thing. And I appreciate the effort, even if the drivers are not good actors. It's nowhere near the Daniel Suarez like you have no friends in the garage, but they're not great either. But it is good to see the stars of the sport in the game, even if it's just slight little videos. I'm trying to think of anything else I might be forgetting. The damage model in the game is fine. There's no debris. There's no, you're not going to rip off a wing or a spoiler or your front end or whatever, and it's still going to be on the track for a caution. You're just going to crumple the car more. There's your basic corners of the car damage system, and you can hurt the engine or whatever, and it's fine. I wish there was more to it. The building of setups is fine. I don't know how to do it. I just really play with the slider, if anything. That's for people that are more in the know than me. I'm sure the online racing is fine. I see people racing online all the time. It's not something I've ever been into. I don't really have any friends that do it, and I've never really felt the need to do that. I could do iRacing for that. But overall, there's a great package here for $50 at the moment. There are hours and hours and hours of fun in here. And if you're a dirt racing fan at all, you should get it. For sure. Now, the biggest problem that I see some people having with the whole game in general, and I don't mean like gameplay wise, is the fact it's not available on PC. It's only available on consoles. And I understand why iRacing is doing this, because they don't want to compete with their own product. But not everyone wants to race iRacing. Some people, like myself, just gonna want to sit down and play against the computer. Not me necessarily with the controller, but with a wheel. And not everybody can afford the gaming PC and the wheel and the pedals and everything. And I understand where they're coming from, and I know it's such a tired argument. That iRacing's expensive, but there's no reason this shouldn't be on PC at all. It's not like iRacing is offering us a career mode with real world drivers on their game, on their service. This is something completely different, and the fact it's not on PC sucks. There's no mods you can make, and I get why they wouldn't want it modded, but that's the most controversy around this game, why it's not on PC. I know my friend has an Xbox, but he didn't buy it because it's not on PC. He wanted it on PC, and I get that. So it's a tough deal. I get why they do it, but I think it should be out on PC. Overall, like I said, there's a lot of fun to be had here. I would play this game now over World of Outlaws 2002. That is a fun game to go back to. Absolutely. It is the standard for World of Outlaw, dirt racing, sprint car games, for sure. I just think there's more here. And it's just as good. It's just as good. I'm not saying this is leaps and bounds better gameplay wise and modes wise, but there's just more to do here, and it's just as good. It'd be different if there was more to do and the gameplay wasn't as good, but there's more to do and the gameplay rivals it. Absolutely. So that's my thoughts. If some of you dirt fans out there disagree with me, that's perfectly okay. If you think World of Outlaws 2002 is better, I'm not going to argue with you. I respect your opinion. That game is fantastic, and they are neck and neck, and that just shows how good that a game in 2023 is so close to a game from 2002. They're right there, and I don't think that if you think that game is better, that's a problem. So I hope you enjoyed my review of World of Outlaws 2023. If you enjoyed my rambling, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I do lots of racing game content. I'd love to have you stick around. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.